Hey fellow composers, and welcome back to another episode of my Complete Composer Series, where I take a look at the plugins from Native Instruments Complete Ultimate Collection. Today's instrument is going to be the Spotlight Series East Asia plugin, which is a special one for me because I have lived in Japan for a year and I'm deeply connected with the culture, so I was just excited to make some music with this and try it out. As always, I have written a short song, which I'm going to show you and explain what I did, show you the instruments, and just walk you through the plugin. Without further ado, let's head into Cubase and see what we've got. Okay, so here we are in the session for the song that I've written using East Asia, which is a Kontakt instrument. And if we go in here, you see we get a bunch of instruments from 3 different countries, China, Japan, and Korea, divided into melodic and percussion, and also ensembles, which I think, are percussion ensembles. If you go in here again, there is just a bunch of names, so you kind of have to figure out yourself what instruments you're going to get. There are flutes in here and string instruments, I think. For instance, the Koto from Japan. I think it's the guzheng from China. And the gayagum from Korea. They kind of look really similar. That is because they once originated in China and then moved to the different cultures across the continent and developed and got adapted into the different cultures of Eastern Asia. So these are all really very historic instruments. Okay, so first of all, I think what we want to do is listen to the song that I've written. As always, I have added orchestra, that is mainly strings, a little bit of brass, and just some cymbals. I think a piano and some taiko as well. So yeah, let's listen. Yeah, if you like that song, don't forget to leave a like, that really helps, and maybe also a comment below the video. And if you don't want to miss any future episodes, also make sure to subscribe to the channel, and there's gonna be a lot more coming in the future. Okay, so let's start with the instruments that I've used. I have concentrated on the Japanese instruments, and the first instrument that I've used is the sho, which is this kind of weird looking flute, which is used, I think, in the Japanese court music for kind of a harmonic background kind of layer. So with this contact instrument, you can obviously either play single notes, phrases, or chords. And then you have these key switches down here for different articulations. So you can play short single notes, inhale, exhale. You can switch between those for more realism. What I have used for this is I used the sus chord articulation, which if you combine this with the single notes creates these really nice suspended chords, which I think work really well for what I've written here. But you can play around with that. Lastly, you get these performance keys, which allow you to dial in stuff like volume fades or a flutter, which you have heard around here. Just a really nice effect, I think. Then again, exhale and inhale for more realism. So what you want to do is combine all of this together to create your own ideas out of these building blocks, basically. The next instrument I have used is the Hichiriki, which is again a flute. And this one I have basically just taken one phrase and let it play as a whole, because I thought it just worked really well, especially together with the sho. Created some really, really nice harmonies. So obviously for these kind of background harmonic layers, that's something you can easily do. Just take one of the pre-recorded phrases and have it play through your song. For the second part back here, I've used this flute again, just playing 3 single notes again to complement the rest of the instruments. So the first melodic instrument that I've used is the Koto, which is a string instrument. Looks like this. And here I've also just started using these pre-recorded phrases. The phrases, if you go in here, you can see there's a bunch of phrases you can choose between, traditional, contemporary, and each has, I think, 6 phrases in there. There's also a bunch of scales that you can choose between, which the instrument is going to stick to, so you won't be able to play any notes outside of these scales. And also the phrases that you choose are going to be in that scale. So that's really nice. And if you tune all your instruments to the same scale, they will be fitting very nicely together. And you get a very authentic sound pretty easily. So as you can see, I've started with this phrase because I like the beginning, and then wrote the ending myself with a couple of single notes down here. As you can see, you have these blue keys and the purple keys, and the blue keys basically are just the strummed notes, and on the purple keys you get special articulations for the same notes. So you can play around with that without having to use any key switches or stuff like that. And then in the end, I've used a performance key, I think, or one of the key switches, yeah, for the glissando articulation. And then I've continued just with a bunch of phrases, yeah. That's all I did for the Koto. Back here, it's coming in again, just playing a bunch of notes, embellishments. And that's it. So let's get into the Shakuhachi, which I think is a pretty well-known flute. Has a really, really distinct sound, sounds really, really lush and full. I'm just gonna play this solo for you, so you can hear what I did. Okay, so yeah, I've started with a phrase again here, which I really liked. Generally, I really love the sound of these instruments. They are sampled really, really well, and all the different functionalities and parts of the instrument, the phrases, the single notes, they fit really well together, and you get a really nice and coherent result from everything you do. So that's what I did here. I tried to combine this phrase with I think a short note here. This is the short articulation key switch, so that the ending of the phrase would be to my liking. So I could continue with, I think this is a single note I'm playing here, together with a mordent up articulation. So it has this kind of embellishment, a couple of single notes here. Again, this is a fade. This is the performance key for the volume fade. So it blends into the next note, and then we have the flutter articulation here, and again a short note. So this is how I wrote all these melodies, just by using the different options for key switches and performance keys. So you really bring those, it's not just plain notes playing after one of each other, but you combine these notes and have them evolve and play really naturally to make them more interesting. And I think you really get all these tools with these instruments to make them sound really nice. This is what I did for the second part as well, which also introduces the vibrato for the shakuhachi. Let me play this. Actually, first let me play this without the vibrato performance key, so you can hear just what it would sound if you have plain notes. So as you can hear, nice sound, but what really makes a difference is the vibrato. Just immediately sounds so much more beautiful and yeah, realistic basically. Okay, so much for the shakuhachi, which is I think overall one of my favorite instruments from this collection. It's just so much fun to write melodies with this. Okay, then the last melodic instruments that I've used is the shamisen, which is a string instrument again, but this one's more kind of resembles a guitar. It's, I think, 3 strings played with this either wooden or plastic plectrum, strummed hit almost. And it has a really, really distinct sound. Now I'm gonna solo this. Yeah, so basically, again, you can see with this one I got a little bit lazy, I think, because I just used phrases. But you really have to say these phrases, they sound so nice. And because they are pre-recorded, you get these imperfections of the strumming and timing, so it sounds really natural because it's actually a human playing this and not you putting in the MIDI notes. And all I did here is basically because I love this phrase so much, the first one has some really nice energy. All I did is use a couple of different phrases, combine them to alter the ending from time to time to make it more interesting, basically. So yeah, these with the staccato strings together, they really fit very, very well, I think. Has a lot of nice energy. Okay, so moving on to the percussion instruments. Here again, I wasn't really interested in creating my own percussion rhythms, as I just wanted to work on my idea here and not bother too much with rhythm design. So what I did again was use, I think these are called patterns for the percussion instruments. Yeah, you get again a couple of patterns which you can edit here. So you can mute instruments and mute hits for these instruments if you don't like what the pattern is giving you. Could mute this instrument, for instance. You could either do that or just program your own rhythms, basically. Same what you would do with any other. Same what you would do with any other percussion library, I think. So what I did here is I used the ensemble and just have it play these patterns, but obviously you get all these single instruments here as well. There's a bunch of drums, there's a bunch of bell-like sounds that you can choose from and create your own stuff, whatever you need. One of the bell-like sounds is the kane, which I used for the second part here. Again, just a pattern that is playing. I altered the ending to make it more interesting. Pretty basic stuff. But this one, especially together with the Shamisen, again has a really nice energy for this kind of more fast-paced music. Lastly, because one thing, there is no real cymbals in this library. Well, there is, but they all kind of sound maybe a little bit different to what you would expect. So because I wanted a couple of cymbal hits for this part and also for the second part, what I ended up using is some of the Chinese instruments, because the China percussion section has, I think, 4 cymbals to choose from. 2 gongs and 2 cymbals, I think. Which I ended up using because the Japanese percussion doesn't include any cymbals at all. So because I wanted to have that sound, I had to go to the Chinese percussion instruments. It's just a little gong and then another kind of cymbal, which I really think fit well with the rest of the instruments. Yeah, and that's already basically everything I did with this track. As I said, the most fun I had just programming in melodies with all the different key switches and combining the patterns with the single notes, especially for the Shakuhachi and the Koto. All of these functionalities and options that you get are shared between all the instruments from all the 3 countries. So everything I showed you here basically as well applies to the Chinese and the Korean instruments. So you can just go in there and choose the instrument that you think sounds best for what you are trying to achieve, and then use all these functionalities to create the sound and the music that you want. Overall, as I said, I think this library is sampled really, really well. The phrases and patterns sound really, really nice, and you get a really good representation of what these instruments actually sound like, combined with the tools to really be able to customize the music that you are trying to write. So yeah, I'm definitely going to use this whenever I'm going for an East Asian vibe. This is something I really like to have because exotic instruments are always really interesting, and I really recommend you picking up this library if you're interested in instruments and sounds from these countries. So yeah, that's all I have to say about this plugin. If you like this short walkthrough, then please leave a like on the video and maybe also subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and I wish you a good day, a good life, and all the love.